All right, welcome to Frank Teaches DevOps. Yeah, my lovely viewers, it's been a while we embrace this space. All right, but however, in today's video pep talk, I call it pep talk. All right, I will be discussing Apache Kafka. Right, so Apache Kafka is one of in messaging, all right, in messaging, Apache Kafka is seen as a message broker, right? A message broker. And on the list of message brokers, we have a lot of tools, both open source as well as proprietary owned tools for implementing message broking. All right. Without further ado, we may need to start off with what actually is Apache Kafka. So for that, I will hop onto Google. Hop onto Google and let's search. Let's just say what is Kafka. Let's see different definitions on Kafka. All right. So in my own definition on what I've read about Kafka is basically for data streaming, movement of data from one source called as called a producer to another source called a consumer. So in data movement, there's a producer, there's someone who sends the message, all right, who sends the message into um, the queue, okay, maybe a kind of yeah who sends a message to the queue, all right? And there's someone who takes the message out from the queue. That guy, the one who sends the message to the queue is the producer, while the one who receives the message out of the queue is the consumer. That is in basic messaging, which we are going to see after looking at what Apache Kafka is. All right, so if you can see, Apache Kafka is a distributed streaming platform that is used to build real-time streaming data pipelines and applications that adapt to data streams. All right, just a movement of data, okay, movement of data from source destination, just like that. And who uses Kafka? A lot of companies uses Kafka. Before Kafka was being developed by LinkedIn, originally, Kafka was developed by LinkedIn. Then it was now picked up by a company called Confluent. All right, this Confluent started developing vigorously on Kafka. So you say Kafka is an open source distributed streaming system used for stream processing, real-time data pipelines, and data integration at scale. All right. So Kafka, as it is very rugged. Okay. So that's what Kafka is. So if we go into images, so briefly, I'll come back to this. I'll come back to this. So this is what Kafka is. All right. And there are tools. There are other tools that does data streaming as well. All right. We call them message brokers. There are tools. Let's look for message brokers. Right, message broker. So message broker, known as integration broker or interface engine, is an intermediary computer program. All right, and an intermediary, a computer program, all right, something that stands in between something and another thing. So that something is a producer, and the another thing is a consumer. Okay, so we a computer program that translates a message from the formal messaging protocol of the sender to the formal messaging protocol of the receiver. That's what a message broker does. And we have a number of these message brokers, both open source as well as proprietary. So on AWS, we have manage MQ, which is Amazon MQ. Now have AWS own service called Kinesis. Kinesis is there. We have Apache ActiveMQ, Apache Autonomous, Apache Kafka, Apache Cupid, Apache Pulsar. We have Cloverleaf, a lot. We also have SQS. If you check down, we have RabbitMQ, so 0MQ, a lot. Let me see if SQS, can't see SQS. So these are all examples of message brokers. All right. So yeah, there it is. The next on our list, we now know what Apache Kafka is for data streaming. Next on our list is just we just need to introduce you to basic messaging. All right. So the concept of basic messaging, in messaging, there are two kinds. There are ways messages have been sent and received, right? So we have synchronous and asynchronous. So in synchronous style of messaging is where you have um, a service. Let's say we have two service from the source and the destination. All right. So the source sends directly to the destination, and the destination receives directly from the source. So in that kind of context, we call it asynchronous because I send you directly. We are syncing instantly. All right, we share data, we share information instantly. Okay, but there's an issue with synchronous style of sharing of data, synchronous style of sending of data. Now, assuming you have this service A. Now, service A sends one data or one sequence of data to service B. Service B can receive that one sequence of data, right? Now, what if in a situation where traffic, all right, traffic goes up, that is transaction traffic goes up, and then service A decides to send, let's say, 1,000 sequence of data, 1,000 at a go to service B. All right. Service B might, at the end, might find it difficult to receive all of those services from service A. Then service B might run into into downtime, what we call a downtime. So the moment service B runs into downtime, service B will take its time to process the services, the 1,000 services being sent by service A. All right. So that is where we have an issue with synchronous style of messaging. But in asynchronous, what we have is, in asynchronous, we have service A. In between service A, there's a queue, right? And service B who receives the message. Now, no matter how messages being sent by service A, the message cannot outweigh service B because the message does not get to service B directly. The message goes into a queue, a system, a queue, where the messages are being stored. Now, when it's time for service B to start receiving the messages, service B will go into the queue and pick the message, process the messages, and do whatever it pleases to do with that message. So in that kind of settings, we call it asynchronous style of messaging. All right. So in asynchronous style of messaging, that is on this style, on this settings, that Kafka and every other message brokers is being built. So in these settings, we have what we call a producer and a consumer, right? The producer sends the data into the queue while the consumer picks the data from the queue, processes the data, and removes the data from the queue, right? So you have producer and consumer in asynchronous style of messaging. Okay, so now this we have here is a typical architecture, or I would say an ecosystem of Apache Kafka. So here we have the source system where data comes in, all right, where data is being sourced for. Then the producer, okay, the producer is now responsible for sending data into Kafka, right? This producer sends data into Kafka, and Kafka side by side communicates with Zookeeper because Zookeeper is needed by Kafka. Without Zookeeper, Kafka cannot work, right? So Zookeeper is a distributed, right, key store, key value store. It's a distributed key value store. So that's what Zookeeper does. So Zookeeper is also responsible for sending off signals, all right, to the Kafka broker. It sends signals and receives signals from to and from the Kafka broker. All right. Then we have consumer. Consumer picks the data that is already on a Kafka cluster or a Kafka instance. It picks the data, processes the data, and sends the data to the target system. So the target system could be a storage, it could be a database, it could be an S3 bucket, it could be a blob storage, it could be anything that houses data, right? That's the target system. So this is how the architecture of Apache Kafka looks like. Okay, so without further ado, let's see what we known as a concept called zookeeper quorum. I'm just trying to, you know, explain everything top level. Okay, top level. And in this video I will only be showing us um, um, a one a one instance setup of um, Zookeeper and Apache Kafka. A one instance setup of Zookeeper and Apache Kafka. So what you see here is called Zookeeper quorum. So in a Zookeeper quorum, which is Kafka cluster, this is aka Kafka cluster, you can have a minimum of three instances, right? You have a minimum of three instances, okay? So in those three instances, um, these three instances, they talk with each other, they communicate with each other, where one could be the leader and the other could be the follower, all right? Because of maybe time, I may have to skip Zookeeper quorum. Okay, maybe in my next video I shall talk more on Zookeeper quorum. But for today's video, the focus is on a single instance Kafka broker, a single instance Kafka broker. So in the single instance Kafka broker, we shall see how we can set up a single server, which is just a single server, and side by side the Kafka broker, and see how we can play around with Zookeeper and Kafka. All right. So let's, without further ado, let's now hop onto AWS. On AWS, I have this my instance. So this is my Ubuntu instance. Okay. So this is my Ubuntu instance. I've set up already for this demo. All right. So on this process, I'll be setting up Zookeeper, Kafka broker, and see how I can manipulate Zookeeper and the rest. Okay. So without further ado, we the first on our list is to getting to download to installing Zookeeper. All right. So I will go and search download Kafka. All right. So I'll hop onto kafka.apache.org. So that is where you can get the latest and whatever version of Apache Kafka you feel like running. So the latest version is 3.2.3, and we have Scalar. So Apache Kafka is being deployed as Scalar. All right. So Scalar. Okay. So yeah. So this is recommendation from the OEM, which says 2.13 is recommended. All right, will be multiple versions of Scala. This only matters if you're using Scala and you want a version blah 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 blah. It also says that 3.2.2 is not recommended because maybe according to them, is not stable. All right. So the most stable version is 3.2.3, and the scalar version is 2.13. So what I will be doing, I will grab the link to this download is a tar file. This download. Then I'm going to hop onto my my EC2 instance, which we have here from our diagram. So these are EC2 instance. So I'll hop onto here and I will do wget and I'll paste the link, all right, and hit enter. So it's going to download these from the Apache kafka.org website. So if I do ls, I should see a tar file. So I may need to untar this file, all right. So I'll say tar decompression. I will need to decompress it minus xvf, then Kafka. So it's been decompressed. So if I check, I see a directory. However, this directory is too long, so I need to rename it. Move Kafka to Kafka. Right? So keep it short. I just succeeded in renaming the file Kafka. I may likely remove this data file, all right, to keep things easy on the server. So that's it. I've installed Kafka. So if you go to into Kafka, you should see a lot. You should see five directories. All right. In these five directories, just two is mostly important. We have the bin and we have the config directories. Okay. So the bin is where you have all your binary files. Okay. If I change into the directory and I do a LL, I will see a lot of scripts, binary scripts that we use to interact with your Zookeeper as well as your Kafka server. Okay, mind you, Zookeeper runs on the same instance with your Kafka broker. All right, with your Kafka broker. So you can see here we have Zookeeper server starts, Zookeeper server stop, and Zookeeper shell. So this is used to start the server. It's used to stop the server, and this is Zookeeper CLI if you need to interact with the Zookeeper CLI. So let's go back a step backward. We also have the config file. So in the config directory is where we have the entire configuration for both Zookeeper and and Kafka broker. So Zookeeper is on, if you need to make any changes, Zookeeper is on Zookeeper.properties. So if you open, you do a vim Zookeeper.properties, Zookeeper.properties. So zookeeper.properties, okay. So you have that. So you see that the data directory where Zookeeper stores this file is on /temp slash Zookeeper. Then client port. Zookeeper by default runs on port 2181. 2181, all right. So this is port which the clients will connect. All right. It's for connection. We have maximum client connections, admin, blah 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 blah. Okay, great. Now that's it. So we can also look at server.properties. This server.properties is specifically for the Apache broker itself. All right, Apache broker. But in the Apache broker itself, okay, you see a lot of settings, configurations. All right. So I'm just going to keep it simple. Today's video is solely for Zookeeper. All right, Zookeeper. But we've already have Apache. Okay, yeah, but we're not going to start off. Sorry, we've already had Kafka, but we are not going to run Kafka. All right, you're only going to run Zookeeper and see how we relate with Zookeeper. Okay, yeah. So on my list we have bin. Okay, so if I need to, let's say if I need to start Zookeeper, all right. So I'm going to type bin slash. I'm going to use the script called Zookeeper server start. Zookeeper server start. I'm going to use this Zookeeper server start script against the Zookeeper dot properties file. Okay, to start Zookeeper. Okay, so now that's properties file is on config and Zookeeper dot properties. Okay, so if I hit enter like this, okay, now all right. So what was I saying? Address is already in use. So I've used this before. So I've used this server before. So I need to stop the service first. Let's stop the service. let's stop the service. It's been stopped. Now let's start the Zookeeper service. So mind you, the start script is under bin folder. Okay, so if I hit enter, that's it. Then you should see something called info binding port. Once you see this, you know that Zookeeper service is up and running. It's up and running. But because of it takes ownership of the terminal, I can't do anything. All right, I can't do anything until I terminate it. So once I press Ctrl C on my keyboard, I have terminated Zookeeper. Okay, I've terminated Zookeeper. But however, there's a way we could run Zookeeper in the background. Okay, so we could run Zookeeper as a daemon. Okay, so daemon, these are services that runs every time on the server. Okay, so I could run Zookeeper as a daemon. So what I would do, I would do the same script, bin slash, and yeah, I'm doing that because I'm currently in that folder where bin is. Bin slash Zookeeper server. We are starting Zookeeper. All right. So I'm going to run this guy as a daemon. So I'll put slash, sorry, dash daemon flag. Then I will specify my Zookeeper configuration file, which is on Zookeeper the what properties. So once this is this, you just go on. You just run it. But how do we know that Zookeeper is up and running? Here, we may now need to use the Zookeeper shell, the Zookeeper CLI. And the Zookeeper CLI is on being Zookeeper shell. So this is the Zookeeper CLI. So how do we start the Zookeeper CLI? And check. So the next thing we would now say bin slash Zookeeper shell. Okay, now we're going to pass it along with localhost column, which is this the Zookeeper server 2181. 2181 is the port that Zookeeper uses to communicate, to send data back and forth to the Kafka broker. All right. So now, if we need to use or manipulate the Zookeeper, we have to use the Zookeeper CLI. So the moment I hit enter, I will see this connecting to local host and a welcome message. Welcome towards Zookeeper. Java line support, blah 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 blah. So now, how do we know that Zookeeper is up and running? So the only way is to list the node. Once we list the path, the root path, we shall see something like Zookeeper. So at this, as this stands as it is, we have a single node Zookeeper. All right, a single instance Zookeeper with one node. All right, one node. We can go ahead to create other nodes. We can create other nodes. All right, we can delete nodes. We can manipulate nodes, which we shall see after this phase. Okay, so you can manipulate. You can click type help. So help will show you a lot of commands you can use to play around Zookeeper, to manipulate Zookeeper and all of that. So in this video, like I earlier said, we are going to keep it very simple. So in this video, we are going to look at the four-letter words, Zookeeper four-letter word, Zookeeper four-letter word, how to create a node, how to create data, send data into the node, and how to delete the node, wipe everything clean. Okay, so now at first, let's look at the four-letter word. Okay, let me quit. So this is how you get the four-letter word. So I want to echo. I want to know if Zookeeper is alive. So we use a four-letter word. I can say echo server. I want to get the server information. All right, echo server. Then I'm going to use a netcat, a tool called netcat, NC, a netcat. Netcat what? The local host. All right, local host space the port which Zookeeper uses to communicate. Okay, then I'm going to echo the response from server. All right, so echo. Let's see if we still have this up and running. So you can see, so the four-letter word on Zookeeper is up and running. It's called Zookeeper four letter word. Okay, four-letter word. So all right, so let's look for other four-letter word. So far, it has received 12 messages, it has sent 12 messages, connection. You have just one active connection. Okay, so let me look for something. Let me look for something called are you okay? Okay, are you okay? So this should respond. Okay, it's telling me that are you okay is not executed because it is not in the white list. So by default, server is in the white list. It's in the white list of Zookeeper. Let's look at statistics, system stats, a four-letter word, right? So it's also saying that stats is not in the Zookeeper whitelist. That is only server that is there. Okay. So now, how do we add four-letter words to Zookeeper? So the best way, the only way to add the four-letter words to Zookeeper is by making an entry in the Zookeeper.properties file. So let's go there. Let's go to config vim config slash zookeeper.properties. So in this file, I'm going to go to the bottom of this file and I will make a new entry. I'm going to call that entry four letter word, okay, dot commands dot four letter words, right. Okay, let me look for it. Let's go for that. Of let's say zoo keeper four letter word, four letter words. All right, zookeeper four letter words. So these are a list of zookeeper four letter words. Okay, let me keep the list somewhere, and then zookeeper four letter words whitelist. So in the whitelist, let's see how we can set the whitelist for this. So quickly, let's see how that is set. Let's see how that is set. Um, there's an environment variable we need to use. Okay. So here it is. Here it is. So just copy this as it is. Copy it. Come over here and let me see something. Okay, four-letter word dot commands dot white lists is equal to asterisk. So asterisk means anything. Okay, asterisk means anything. So once that is set, escape, save and quit. Save and quit. So I'm going to restart Zookeeper. So the same way, um, bin slash Zookeeper server starts. Okay, and config and Zookeeper. So this is going to drop an error because it's already up and running. So you have to stop it first before you start it. So you start it and sorry, you stop it and then you start it. So Zookeeper is up and running. Let me run it as a daemon. Sorry, run this as a daemon. So it runs in the background dash daemon. Okay, so that's fine. So once that is run, let's now test the four letter words. So we can now say echo are you okay, then pipe it to netcat, then local host, uh, it runs on 2181 semicolon, then echo. So I'm going to echo the output. Let's see if everything you can see now that everything is now working. So it's now returning the four letter word is now returning I am okay. Okay, so let's just play around with some other list of four letter words. So we have conf. Let's look at conf. Let's look at conf a bit. So let me recall this command. Sorry, echo config, all right, which is zookeeper config. Let's check. It's a four-letter word, right? So you use the configuration. So you display configuration. So the configuration of zookeeper, they tell you that zookeeper runs on port 2181. Secure client protocol -1. Data directory is temp zookeeper, blah 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 blah. So you see a lot of configuration for zookeeper. So it's very useful. So you see the four-letter word. It's very useful. All right. So CRST I've not seen the CRST. Let me see what that is. Create service. I will create what? CRST. Connection starts reset. Okay, connection start reset. Okay, good. Reset the connection. Okay, I see. I see. Then number of connections, which is CONS. So connections, we have this active connection. In my queue, there's nothing in my queue. I have one received message and I've not sent any message. So that is how you play around with Zookeeper. I will still have more time. Okay. Now I need to, instead of, if you've noticed, if I need to use either of the scripts, I may have to type bin followed by the script zookeeper, and let's say stop. I want to stop. Sorry, zookeeper server. I want to stop the zookeeper server. Then I'll pass it alongside with config. Then zookeeper properties. So if I hit enter, good. But this process is too daunting. Daunting in the sense that I need to type long commands. All right, long commands. So what if I set up a an environment variable for the script, okay, for the script, so that I don't need to start typing the whole commands as it is. So I just need to type it from anywhere from the terminal and I'll get those commands. So let's try that and see. We need to set up environment variable. So what we'll do is where I am, I'll change directory into what bin, and if I do pwd, so all my script is under bin, or Kafka slash bin. So I'm going to copy this path. All right, right click, copy it. Then I'll go to etc environment. So in on etc environment, I can set my environment variables. All right, I can still do this on my profile, but I prefer doing this here. So all I need to do is to add a a double quote, sorry, a double a column to indicate end of the previous command and the start of the next command. So I'll just paste that guy. I've pasted the guy, escape, save, and quit. So the next thing I need to do, I just need to source it. Source slash etc slash environment. So it's done. So wherever I am, sorry, exited. So as I am here now, I'm not inside of bin now. You can see I'm inside slash home slash Ubuntu. I can run any of those zookeeper commands. So if I type zoo and press my tab key, it will give me auto completion. Completion. So if I double tap my tab key, I will see a lot of the zookeeper script commands. Okay, so I need to I need to start the server. Start the server. Start the server. Okay, so I will pass it along with okay, just if I hit this, let's see. Okay, it needs a configuration file, right? So it needs a configuration file. I can also pass let me see if I could get, okay, I can't get that directly. Okay, because I didn't set that as well. All right, let me see if I can set the config also. So I go to config, right? pwd. So no, this is just config. It will not fly. It will not fly. So let's just do it simple. Zookeeper server start. Then we find our way up to where the configuration file is. Zookeeper dot properties. So I need to run that as a daemon. I think it's still up and running as a daemon. So it is up and running, it's there. So if I need to log in to use the zookeeper shell, I'll say zookeeper shell and pass it along with the localhost column 2181, and I am inside. So from here, I can now start typing any zookeeper commands. All right. So back on our list, if you check on our list, we have set up zookeeper, we have set up Kafka broker, because of time, I will not be going into setting up Kafka Broker because it's already there. It's just to start off the service, all right, using the server.properties file, all right, basic Zookeeper manipulations. Okay, so next thing we need to do, we need to see how we can a node, create a node and delete the node and send data to the node. So if I check the number of nodes I have, I just have Zookeeper. So let's see how we can use the create command to create a node. So create slash the node name, right? The path. My node name, I can say my node. Then I'll pass a data to the node. I can say Frank's teaches DevOps. So you tell me that node created. So if I say ls and forward slash, I should see my node that I created and the zookeeper, the default zookeeper node that was already there. So now let's check the content of my node. Okay. So if I say get my node, so if I say get my node, you see that it will display the content, the data of which I passed, all right? The data that is present in that node. So say Frank teaches DevOps. So Frank teaches DevOps. So if I'm through, I want to leave, I want to clear everything, I will just say delete, delete slash my node. So delete slash my node is going to delete that node. And if I now say ls slash, is you see that I only have the zookeeper node. Okay, so you can now see how setting up a single instance zookeeper node is easy. All right, it's easy. Okay, the same way. Let me exit from here. Let me exit. Quit. The same way, if I need to start my Kafka, it's very simple. I would say zookeeper server start. What am I starting? I'm starting Kafka config. I'm starting Kafka dot server. Okay, sorry, I'm starting server dot properties. All right. So server dot properties. So if I hit enter, I should have. Oh. What is the problem? Do I need them? Oh, sorry, Kafka scripts. All right. Kafka server. This is for Kafka itself. Zookeeper server start is for Zookeeper. Then Kafka server start and stop is for Kafka. All right. So let's start it. Then I'll say my Kafka directory config, then server.properties. Server.properties. So this also is going to have take hold of my terminal. You can see my Kafka server broker is up. It's now listening on, okay, listening type is Zookeeper broker. Node ID started, blah blah blah. So my Kafka is now up and running. So Kafka is now up and running. But today's video is not for Kafka, it's for Zookeeper. In our next video, I shall also show us how we can play around with Kafka and how we can set up a Kafka cluster. The Kafka cluster will come pretty well in this architecture called Zookeeper Quorum. All right, Zookeeper Quorum, where we have multiple instances of Zookeeper running in different instances in different availability zones. Because in this context, I'll be using the AWS. All right, AWS. Okay, so this is it for today. This is it. This is it. And for the take home is you saw how we explain what Kafka is with Zookeeper, and you also saw how we explain basic messaging. Messaging is divided into two: synchronous and asynchronous. Then we also saw how we talked about message broker and list of other message brokers. Then also look at the Kafka ecosystem, which is this. Then we didn't talk much about this because this will be in our next video. Then we now also talk about the Zookeeper single instance, okay, and how to set it up and how to play around with the Zookeeper CLI. And we also saw how we started Kafka Broker with the Kafka scripts. I think that is fine for today and for this video. And I thank you so much for your audience. Thank you, and please kindly like our video, share, and leave your comments. Thank you, and see you in my next episode.